In this video, we are going to walk through building an application in our K2 environment from one of the AppWizard templates provided in the Apps workspace available in the K2 workspace site. I have my web browser showing an instance of the K2 workspace site with the Apps workspace open. With the AppWizard's capability, you can add an application from the All Apps view in the Apps workspace or from the My Apps view. I'll go ahead and start from the All Apps view for this demo. Because we want to use one of the AppWizard templates to create a document review application, we can click the New button from the menu at the top of the application list, shown here in the middle of the screen. Make a note the Install button is for Smart Starter applications, of which we are not going to use in this demonstration. At the top of this next page, you must enter a name for your application. Notice this is marked as a mandatory field. I'll go ahead and add a name here, as well as a description for good measure. And with that, I'm ready to go. The Document Approval AppWizard template is part of the Submit for Approval application type, so I'll first select that type from the options in the Application Types section. Upon doing that, the templates list is filtered to Submit for Approval AppWizard template types, along with descriptions of what each application provides. I'll leave the setting called Use a Template marked because we want to select the AppWizard template for document approval rather than building our own application. Notice, down in this list, you can click on the More Details link if you would like to look at overview information for the application type. You can also look at structure of the main data object that gets created. You can see the workflow design and also review supporting data objects for this application. Within this list, I'll select Document Approval and then click the Next button to move on to the App Details page. The Details page lets you rename your main data object before creation. Consider doing this if you need to distinguish this data source from others in your environment. It is initially based on the name of your application from the previous window, but you can change it here if desired. You also have the ability to add, edit, and delete data fields to customize the application for your business needs on this page. For example, to manage values for the category lookup field at this point, you can select that field from the list, then click on the Edit button to update this field. Notice that the values in the list here are editable for this field. We'll leave this field set to the default options for now and move on to configure the workflow and a few other options. Clicking on the Next button takes us to a window where we can determine the type of workflow we want this to be. We can add additional data objects if necessary, and with this particular application template, the Options tab lets us set whether we would like to enable drafts for this instance, thus letting users save their work without having to submit a workflow. Note, the settings here may be different depending on the AppWizard template that you are working with. Back on the Workflow tab, I want to change this workflow to a two-step approval. I can do this by clicking on the Change link next to the Workflow template setting. With the options available on this page, we can set up one-step or two-step approval workflows. Notice as well that each of those options could also have a rework loop included. For this demonstration, I'll choose the two-step approval without the loop, then click the Select button to make that change. On the Workflow tab again, I'm also going to rename this workflow to have a little more meaning based on my application title by clicking the Change link next to the workflow name. That looks good, so I'll click Update to save that back. Next, let's look at setting up the approvers for the two-step workflow. The first approval step is set to be an approver that is selected by the user filling out the submission form when they're ready to submit the document for review and start the workflow. For the second approval step, I'd like to actually change this and add two designated approvers. You can select the Specify Approvers radio button option to do this. Then we can add Chris and Cody for the approvers. That way they will both get a task to approve the document. If you have the need, you can also update the names of these approval steps based on your business requirements by clicking on the Change link next to each approval step name. I'm going to leave these set to the default settings for now and click Next to move on. From here, we can generate the application. Now, this may take a few minutes to generate the forms, data object, and workflow, so I'm going to pause the video for the sake of time. Okay, at this point, the application has been generated and lives in our environment. We can click to go back to the My Apps list or go directly to the application's homepage from here. Also, if you wait long enough, you will be redirected accordingly. I'll go into the application's homepage for now. Notice on this page, because I created the application, I am the default admin and will be able to see a link into the administration area. Let's open that up briefly. In the administration area, you will have the ability to manage any of the lookup lists associated with your application. You can see we have access to the category lookup list here. Also, because we chose to designate specific approvers for the second level approval for the application, K2 created a list for managing members of that approval level. Moving back up to the top of the page, notice there is also a link to go down into an area meant to manage administrators and other settings for the application. You can add other coworkers to the administrators list if necessary, and edit various other settings for the application like form sizes and titles. Let's go back to the home page for the application by clicking on the K2 logo in the upper left of this administration area. On this page, you will be able to see any pending items you have submitted, completed items from you, as well as a view of the K2 work list for the application. You can access reporting to look at workflow statistics and information, and finally, you can access the document approval submittal form. Your users will be able to access this application by using the URL to the home or landing page of the application. They will also be able to access it from the All Apps Workspace view list and in the application's favorites list in the Apps Workspace. Also of note, because I just created this application, I am going to see it listed under the My Apps Workspace view. You will see this accordingly based on when you create applications.